Charlie Kirk's assassination has deleted evidence that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson haven't mentioned once. This guy told the cops to arrest him so the shooter could have more time to get away. This guy was deployed for 9/11, deployed against Obama, for George Bush, and personally worked with senators and US congressmen. And he personally admitted it, and they wiped everything, but I downloaded it just before.
George Zinn.
I've been deployed to a lot of campaigns. I just did a deployment last year.
And you were out there knocking on doors.
John McCain and whoever. So I went all the way to Vegas just to harass John Kerry's rally.
Obviously you knew Orrin, Senator Hatch.
George Bush and McCain had the same donors. These donors, like Manafort, Berman, Ronald Weiser, they manipulate elections, create countries, and have personally admitted to taking money from all of these countries. And Zinn, the patsy, is an example of an actor they use.
I was deployed to Minnesota for the Norm Coleman campaign.
Zinn was deployed for Norm Coleman, who ran against the guy who was anti-war, who died 11 days before the election. George Bush and McCain, Obama's opponent, were also pro-war. Zinn was there for 9/11. Zinn was there for all this pro-war propaganda, and then was there when Charlie Kirk was killed after he told Trump not to invade Iran.
He was one of the only people to go to the president. A war with Iran is something that could really hurt our country. I mean, boy, that was an unpopular position, and he did it again.
And talked about the Epstein-Mossad connection.
Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine, and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies.
He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times.
I have a full 27-minute video going over exactly what happened, why people like Candace Owens might be lying to you, and the archive podcast, link in bio.
Hey, welcome to the channel, everybody. Hope you're doing well. So if you're new here, this is how it works. We'll be checking out a series of clips, and when that series of clips is over, I'll be giving my opinion. But let's just get into it and see what we got today, guys. We are live.
They're hiding the true answer to this question from us. Look at these images. Can you figure out why Himalayan salt looks like flesh? I'll give you a hint. We are living on the remains of a much larger past. It's believed that giants once roamed the earth. The Book of Enoch speaks of a species called the Nephilim, giants born from the union of fallen angels and human women. These beings were enormous, powerful, and possessed knowledge far beyond human capabilities. Many structures and details today can be attributed to these giants. Think about the massive doorways, stumps from enormous trees, and giant skeletons that have been found. But it gets even deeper. Tartaria was known for its monumental architecture and technological prowess. Could the Nephilim have been a part of this empire? Their immense strength and knowledge could explain how such grand structures were built. But there's even more. The Bible mentions that God was furious at the chaos the Nephilim had caused, and he sent a great flood to cleanse the earth. This cataclysmic event buried these giants, and all we are left with today are their petrified remains. This brings us to another question. Could geology just be hardened biology? Over millennia, their bodies have fossilized into the pink salt we know today. It's no wonder this salt is known for its mystical and healing properties. What if it holds the essence of these powerful beings?
You know, that's an interesting theory. I've never really thought about it like that, but you never know.
Wow, that's crazy.
Why do you think every store is pushing self-checkout so hard? It's not about efficiency, it's about control. Right now, it feels convenient. Scan your items, pay, and go. But phase 1 is always about getting us comfortable. Phase 2, stores with no employees, no cashiers, just shelves, cameras, and drones watching your every move. And here's the twist, it's not just about monitoring. They'll control what you can buy using something called carbon credits. Every product you pick up will deduct from your yearly limit. Want a fancy lab-grown steak? Sure, but that might cost you all your credits for the year. Luxury items will be rationed, and you'll be stuck with sustainable choices they decide are good for you. Think about it. The illusion of choice, but your groceries, your meals, all pre-approved by AI systems. Step out of line, pick up something unauthorized, and boom, the drones flag you. Maybe they even shut down your payment chip. They're building a system where you don't decide what's in your cart. They do. And it all starts with a simple self-checkout. Convenient, right? Or is it the perfect trap?
This is just a theory, not a fact.
You know, it's an interesting perspective, and you never actually know. So that's another.
So the president of Argentina, you know, the crazy looking dude that gave Elon that fucking chainsaw for chopping out fucking corruption, he's getting on the declassification party. He dropped a bunch of classified documents from Argentina that show Hitler didn't die in World War II. No, he fled to Argentina, lived there until the 60s, had 2 daughters. Yeah, and the CIA knew about it, and so did the FBI. Yeah. They were down there recruiting Nazi scientists because it wasn't just Hitler. A fuckload of Nazis escaped to Argentina after World War II through the rat lines. Facilitated a lot by the Catholic Church. Yeah, how about that? You know, because everything you were taught in school, it's all bullshit. You don't know fucking shit. If all you know is what they taught you in school, you're just a programmed fucking moron. That's what that is. Yeah, even the skull that the Russians have that they claim is Hitler's, they tested that. It's actually a female woman's skull. It's a woman's skull. It's not even everybody fucking knew. Everybody fucking knew, and they fucking lied about it. Why? Because they wanted German scientists. That's where our space program came from. All the top motherfuckers at NASA, all Nazis. All of them. They're all fucking Nazis. They even say that's why we were obsessed with fighting communism after that, was because a lot of the Nazis, that's what the Nazis were fighting, was communism. And where did communism come from? Uh-oh, now we're getting somewhere. What was the Bolshevik Revolution? You know, that overthrew the czars of Russia? Yeah, go look up what religion the majority of the Bolsheviks that murdered all those people were. Yeah, that's gonna shock you. Little Star of David. People, nothing of what you know have ever been taught is the truth. It's all bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. This is a new day. Oh shit, dude. The Epstein fucking files. 16 terabytes of information is now being gone through by the DOJ. Yeah, they're gonna get to the bottom of that shit, they say. They got a whole task force on it. That's why they couldn't release it, because they found way more evidence than they thought they were going to find. And with hundreds and hundreds of child victims, they are saying. Michael Serafin released that today. All confirmed. DOJ, FBI is digging deep into it. Gonna get us some accountability. People, welcome to reality, because everything you know and have ever been taught is fucking bullshit. Good luck to you all.
It's true.
And long live this beautiful republic.
You know, even Michael Jackson said the same thing before they took him out. Like, it's all lies, guys. Just about all of it.
I don't think I'm ever going to eat canned soup again unless I absolutely need to. There was a study, they gave people either fresh soup or canned soup for 5 days. Then they did a so-called 2-day washout where they took a break from soup. What they found was that consumption of 1 serving of canned soup daily over the course of 5 days was associated with more than 1,000% increase in urinary BPA. 1,000-fold increase in BPA from canned soup. I'm not alarmist, but I only have to read this once. Done. I'm not eating canned soup again unless I'm absolutely starving. Bisphenol A is a known endocrine disruptor. It mimics estrogen in ways that can activate or block estrogenic pathways. So it messes up hormone pathways. BPA is not a good thing. Turns out there's lots of it in the lining of soup cans. The lining helps maintain the flavor and the freshness of the soup in those cans. My suggestion would be, unless you have a powerful reason to consume canned soup, don't consume canned soup.
Yeah, you know, I don't even like the taste of canned soup. I can always taste the aluminum in it.
Amazingly,
always.
Switzerland used to have some of the dirtiest rivers in the whole of Europe, and now, 60 years-ish later, it's got some of the cleanest. And all they did was change one thing. You see, in 2016, Switzerland became the first country to legally enforce the cleanup of drugs and chemicals in their waterways, which seems bonkers. They contain things like antidepressants, antibiotics, diabetes treatments, anti-inflammatories. They are horrendous, and they are everywhere. In fact, in the UK, 75% of our waterways are described as being in bad ecological health and have a load of that stuff in them. Now the thing is, most sewage systems do an okay job of dealing with things like organic waste, but they're less effective with chemicals. So Switzerland did something really clever. They invested in wastewater treatment plants, which work a bit like your stomach. They filter out all the bad stuff. 250 litres every single second goes through just one of these. They've got 37 across the country. And it gets rid of all the stuff like rubbish, food, money, things people flush down their toilets. You name it. It's filtered out. That water then goes through active charcoal, which acts a bit like a sponge and absorbs all those microchemicals, leaving you with this lovely, nice, clean water. They're going to have over 100 of these plants by 2040. It sort of becomes a case of what do we value and what should we spend money on? At the moment, we're spending quite a lot of money per person on something that doesn't work. Whereas for a bit more money, we could have something that works incredibly well and means we could actually use our rivers. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
You can eat the fish in the rivers. You know, I live right by the North Saskatchewan in Alberta, and while it's going through the city, you can't eat fish out of that river.
The Rockefeller family started the school system with the objective of creating work ants that swallow everything without questioning anything. A system where you don't really learn, but are indoctrinated by their ideas. The Rockefeller family promoted an educational model based on memorization and obedience, designed to train efficient workers and not critical thinkers. This approach aligned with the needs of the Industrial Revolution, providing docile and easily manageable labor for the productive system. This model, influenced by the Prussian system, sought to suppress creativity and intellectual independence in order to maintain social and economic control. The purpose of the elite was to create a population that would unquestioningly accept the established structures, thus ensuring the perpetuation of their power and wealth. And let me tell you something, dear viewer. When we all rise up, the game that the elite have imposed for decades will be over. If you do not know where to start with all this new information I shared with you, I recommend that you investigate by your own means the mechanisms of the elite to begin to wake up, understanding and avoiding their manipulation.
Yeah. You know, I always wonder what this world would be like if that wasn't the case with the Rockefellers.
It was 5 years ago. You just need to get over it. That's what somebody said to me. So let me just remind you. At this time, 5 years ago, I was in lockdown for 2 weeks while my grandmother was dying and I couldn't go visit her because of the COVID restrictions. It was this time 5 years ago where the entire world got locked down and people were dying every single day and their families couldn't go visit them because of the restrictions. It was this time 4 years ago that I had to break in to a hospital to see my grandfather who had suffered a stroke after getting the vaccine. And I had to beg and cry and fall to my knees in front of a police officer who was standing guarding the emergency exits, the emergency entrances at the hospital. And I broke in there to go see my grandpa because of what had happened. It was at this time, not that long ago, where I had to lie to get into a different hospital because my brother had a near fatal motorcycle accident and I could only pretend to be his one allowed person. I had to pretend to be his girlfriend to go in and see him after he just got out of a coma. It was this time not that long ago that my dad died. He had taken the vaccines because he thought he had no choice. He was almost 60 years old. He didn't think he had another option and he was going to lose his license and his job had he not gotten the vaccine. It was this time not that long ago that people were screaming at me in grocery stores and yelling at me in the streets for not wearing a mask. It was this time not that long ago that families were split apart, people hating each other from the same families, where people weren't allowed at the Christmas dinner because they didn't have an experimental vaccine injected into their bodies. Do you remember? Have you forgotten? Are you one of those people that just like a goldfish, you forget what happens to you yesterday? So while I don't have the same anger in my heart because I had to choose to let that go for my own well-being, I'm never going to get over it.
Yeah.
I am never going to forget what happened to us. I cannot.
Yeah.
Because you think it's going to be the last time? You think it's the last time? Look at what the WEF is doing. Look at the new pandemic treaties. Look at everything that's happening. So while I no longer hold the same anger in my heart, I will always remember what happened. And I'm never going to just get over it. It will always be present for me because it has to. We need to be prepared for the future. And in any next times, we need more voices like mine that said, no, I will not wear a mask. I will not conform. I will not pass you my veins. No, I am resisting to the system that is here to sicken us, oppress us, and literally put us 6 feet underground.
Yeah, I feel like all the ones that went along with it want to forget about it. It was the ones that resisted that can't.
Breaking news with you. I found out a few hours ago something that very exciting. Last year, some of us submitted a vaccine injury paper to the Lancet, to one of the biggest journals in the world, co-authored by Dr. Peter McCullough, myself, Dr. Mark Trozzi, Dr. Roger Hodkinson, and other doctors. That paper was about autopsy series, the largest autopsy series in the world of people who took and then died suddenly a few days or a few weeks after. That paper was downloaded hundreds of thousands of times, and within 24 hours, there was so much pressure put on by the pharmaceutical industry that the Lancet took the paper down, canceled it, and basically wanted to cancel it forever so that it would never see the light of day. I just found out a few hours ago that that paper has passed peer-reviewed and is going to be published.
Well, what do you know? Maybe there will be a reason to remember and not forget.
And according to my research, which will very soon be revealed next week, they've rescued so far 35,000 tender-age kids. How you like that? Now, according to Ms. Hopper's research, which I find fascinating, and everybody up here should, 70% of the documentation turned in by so-called sponsors, which were lined up by who? The NGOs. Through who? Primarily HHS. There's a pipeline, man. We fed a pipeline of tender-age children into sex trafficking and slave labor into our country. We're finding these kids. We're tracking this fraudulent documents. You're right, Ms. Hopper. My research showed a little bit less, 65%. You said 70%. I'll go with 70. So be advised. Be advised. We are building out case files, criminal case files. We're interviewing these 35,000 kids, and we're finding out exactly what the hell happened, how they ended up in the nightmare where they were, and we're rescuing more. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. We're going to identify these children, we're locating these children, we're rescuing these children, and we're building out criminal files based upon the testimony of these young teenagers and the documentation of fraudulent vetting. And many of these NGO employees are going to find themselves wearing orange, be their new favorite color. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the indulgence. I yield.
You know, I hope so. You know, because this lack of accountability for those that we call elites, it's got to stop, man.
Okay, so here's the truth. We don't need to fight the system. We just need to stop feeding it. The system only works if we stay plugged in. Taxes, fines, licenses, registrations, and interest. All of it runs on our energy, our money, and our consent. And most of that consent was never actually truly given. So here's how we start peacefully opting out. And it's not a rebellion, but a remembrance. Step 1, know who we are. We're not corporate entities. We're not the all caps name on a license or a birth certificate. We are living men or women, and we have unalienable rights. And when we know that, we stop asking permission to live freely. Step 2, reclaim your standing. You can lawfully withdraw consent using documents like an affidavit of status, a notice of non-consent, a conditional acceptance, and a revocation of signature or implied contract. These say, I do not agree to your system, and if you claim that I do, then prove it. And spoiler alert, they usually can't. Step 3, we need to exit the system gently. We don't need to run off to the bush. We can actually just start paying in cash instead of cards, trade or barter with locals, move our money out of major banks and into credit unions or crypto, grow food, even if it's just herbs in a pot, start somewhere, and say no to permits and licenses when you can lawfully stand your ground. And step 4, the most important, we need to do this together. This only works when we move in unity. We need to find our tribe. We need to host sovereignty workshops, share resources, pool skills, and build micro-communities. The system can't stop thousands of people peacefully withdrawing consent. We're not breaking the law, we're standing in our truth, and we're not protesting, we're building something better. The gears of the system only turn if we stay plugged in. So, unplug, reconnect with other people, and step into your rightful power. Follow if you're ready, share if it resonates, and comment sovereign if you're done waiting for permission to live freely like me. Big love.
Yeah, 100%. She's not wrong, and I would like to speak more on this at the end of the episode because I have quite a bit to say on that.
If all the people in the world stood next to each other, the entire human population would fit on an area the size of the Istrian Peninsula. If each person in the world were provided with a space of about 1,000 square meters to grow food for themselves, the entire human population would fit on an area equivalent to the size of Brazil. If each 4-member family were provided with a space of about 700 square meters to grow food for themselves, the entire human population would fit on an area equivalent to Iran. In 2019, it was estimated that there were approximately 7.7 billion people in the world. Almost all the necessary vegetable quantities for a 4-member family can be produced on about 200 square meters of garden space. It is known that arable land currently covers an area of about 31 million square kilometers. On this land, the vegetable quantities needed to feed 155 billion people, or over 38 billion 4-member families, could be grown. There are not too many people. There is more than enough space.
That's exactly right. 100%. It's all bullshit. This overpopulation.
Everywhere you
nonsense.
look, they're gone. The church bells, the Tartarian bells, the towers that once stood in every city, every village. They told us they needed the metal for war. They told us it was for the military. But we know the truth. They didn't just take the bells. They took the frequencies. These weren't just instruments of sound, they were harmonic engines, broadcasting resonance across entire regions, aligning the human body, the Earth's energy, the very rhythm of reality itself. Every ring sent waves through the air, tuning entire cities into balance, synchronizing thought, stabilizing the environment. And then, one by one, they tore them down. Ask yourself, why? Why remove something so central to human civilization for thousands of years? Why erase the sound that connected us to something deeper, something beyond just metal and chimes? Because these weren't just bells. They were tools of power. The Tartarian bell towers were constructed with mathematical precision, designed to emit frequencies that could heal, uplift, and awaken. Some believe they could even influence consciousness itself, but they took them away. They silenced them. And what did they replace them with? Noise, chaos, a world out of tune. We don't just want them back, we need them back. Because the moment we lost those bells, we lost something else, something we can still hear, if we listen closely enough. Experience the power of a 500-year-old recording from an actual Tartarian Zironeth bell tower, a sound that was never meant to be heard again. Play it at least twice a week to restore balance in your life and environment through the forgotten science of sound. Download it now through the link tree on our page.
Yeah, that's just it. If it was just for the war that they needed the metal for, how come the bells were never ever replaced all those years later?
The fastest way to break someone down is by constantly correcting them, even over the smallest things. You might think you're just being helpful, but correction is often criticism in disguise. And over time, it chips away at a person's confidence. Have you ever seen someone who was bright and curious as a child, but grew up to be quiet, unmotivated, and anxious? It's not because they were born lazy, it's because they were overcorrected. Psychology has an explanation for this. The human brain has a self-protection mechanism that helps us grow and adapt, but constant correction shuts that mechanism down. For example, maybe you're tired and lying on the couch scrolling your phone, and someone says, "That's bad for your eyes." Or you're doing your homework and they say, "Sit up straight. Why are you sitting like that?" You clean the room and still hear, "You can't even do this simple thing, right?" These may seem like small comments, but over time they add up. Eventually, your brain starts whispering, I can't do anything right. So you stop trying. You start procrastinating. You avoid making decisions. On the surface, you might look lazy, but in reality, you're just exhausted from constantly being judged. And this doesn't only happen in childhood. It can show up in adult relationships too. When your partner constantly corrects you, it's not care. It's control disguised as concern. Over time, you stop trusting yourself. You second-guess everything. You can't make decisions. You feel anxious, heartbroken, and helpless. But here's the truth. The problem isn't you. It's the other person's need for control. They're afraid of losing it, so they micromanage everything you do. That's not love, it's manipulation. Real love gives you space. It encourages you, helps you grow, and allows you to make mistakes. Because true growth comes from self-correction, not from someone watching your every move. So if you're stuck in this kind of cycle, it's time to wake up.
And that's essentially what the school system does to you. Breaks you down by overcorrecting you for 15
I don't want to
years.
scare you, but 1980, when Iraq was struck, that was the beginning to World War III. And World War III will begin in the Middle East by striking Israel, by this superpower which is not America. It's Mr. Shanghai, Ni Hao, China, and with it Russia, and North Korea, and Iran. Okay, so Iran will be involved. But these are the small players, but the main players are Russia and China. The end battle will be between two superpowers, East and West. What is West? America and Great Britain. East, China and Russia. These are the two superpowers will flex their muscles in what is called Armageddon. In the Middle East, they will show what powers they have and what wisdom they have achieved and what technology they have reached and what it's going to be, the knowledge of humanity, which is the destruction of humanity. They will wipe this planet nice and neat. They'll burn it. But who's burning it at the end? The Lord Jesus. Why? Because humanity have filled the world with filthiness, fornication, abomination. The Lord will clean it with fire. He cleansed it in the beginning with water, the great flood, and in the end he will cleanse it with fire, my beloveds.
I mean, that's essentially what the book of Genesis is all about, right? It always comes back to humanity.
What
is
is
just
the draw of
like
Islam to the West? Why is the West kind of floating over to it?
Yeah.
What is the appeal?
Are Muslims allowed to lie for the sake of spreading Islam? They're coming here and they're saying, yeah, we love you guys, we back you guys, but the moment they are the majority, they will turn and Sharia law will take over.
Yeah.
And if Sharia law takes over, women will be beaten. If Sharia law takes over, homosexuals will be chucked off buildings. If Sharia law takes over, pastors will be killed, women will be raped, children will be turned into Muslims, and churches will be bought and turned into mosques, which is what's happening in London. So I think what they're doing now in America is they're practicing taqiyya, where they're lying to your face until you let them in. And once you let them in, they'll take over.
Yeah, 100%. And the way it's going, especially in Western societies, Sharia law will eventually take over because we're not having babies.
Do you know that in recent years there has been more and more talk of time speeding up? You've probably noticed it yourself. The acceleration started around 1980. Scientists are noticing that time is passing faster. People have less time to do things than they used to, and scientists are already putting numbers on it. A modern day is equivalent to 18 hours, not 24. People now in their 40s look like people in their 30s used to look. For example, monks in a monastery on the holy island of Mount Athos noticed this because they didn't have enough time to pray. For centuries, they have been reading the same prayer book, and now they don't have time to read it in a day. And in Tibet, there is a monastery in which every day at the same time monks burn candles that should burn exactly 24 hours. The technology of production of these candles do not change for hundreds of years. So, since some time, the monks have noticed that the candle does not have time to burn out in 24 hours. And the most frightening thing is that every year, time begins to fly faster and faster. By the way, have you ever noticed that time has gotten faster? Or is it all a game of our brain and imagination?
That's the big theory, right? There's a lot of people out there that experience this speeding up of time. It's a phenomenon. Let me know in the comments, do you experience this yourself as well? Now, back to the overpopulation myth that I want to talk about. I do believe that there is a reason for the replacement of the population, especially in the Western societies. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that some people think that Egypt used to be America, and there's that whole rabbit hole that we've all gone down and we all know what we're talking about there. It's not the first time that they've done this population replacement, and I think it's to mix up the history and it's to make things a little bit harder to dig through, because it just seems like no matter what they do, at the end of the day or at the end of the era, a lot of us people end up waking up, we end up finding the truth again, and then they end up having to reset again, right? But she's not wrong when she said that the whole population could fit in a very, very tiny section of the world. It's very true. We don't take up that much space. The reason that they flood all these people in to your country is to make it seem like it's overcrowded and you're constantly around people and people that you don't get along with, people that you don't align with. So it's a tactic, right? And it's just something that they've always done, something that they'll always continue to do. It kind of ties in with the whole Sharia law. You know, I remember seeing a Muslim guy speaking at the Parliament grounds in Canada a few years ago saying that eventually, yeah, Sharia law will take over here because, like I said earlier, we're not having babies, you know? And that's another reason why they have hijacked the education system and poisoned it with communist and leftist ideology, saying that you don't need to have a nuclear family, you shouldn't have kids, you should just do you, abort your babies, all that stuff that they like to push. It's all part of the plan. It's a big part of the plan as well. When you look back at how many people used to have 7, 8 kids per family, like my grandfather comes from a large family. I think he had like 9 brothers and sisters in total. Like, it was huge to have families like that, but you needed it because everyone helped out on the farm and helped raise everything. We've gone from that to people with just one child. Like my wife and I, we have suffered about 9 miscarriages in our entire life, and only one of our sons has actually made it to term, and he ended up being severely autistic. So that's not normal, and that there's many such cases where that is the case, you know. And then we look at all the people who give up their children to the foster agency, which we know plays into a lot of the child trafficking that we see. It's all a sick system, right? But they've convinced you to give up your young. You know, that's something that in nature you don't see very often. Mothers giving up their young so they have a better chance at survival, or maybe it's just for selfish reasons. Regardless, it all ties together. One hand washes the other when it comes to these people. They have a sick plan, and it is working, and there's so many elements to the plan, right? And it all has to work in perfect balance. Otherwise, you end up getting people getting too awake and, you know, starting shows like this one. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on it though. So just revisiting some old rabbit holes and putting a new perspective on it. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments, so let me know. See you again in the next one. Till then, 80 Canadian, signing off.